have rarely heard the terms domestic violence in describing Monday's events. This is a time to bring awareness and destigmatize the issue of domestic violence. Change the narrative that no one ever saw this coming. Because the abuse leading up to the homicide is often invisible to others. People can be surprised when it occurs, but victims are experiencing it all along. Abusive tactics may differ between public and private spaces. In private spaces, they are likely more overt, including physical abuse. However, abusive behavior is difficult to notice in public spaces. We have to bring this issue to light.
First, I would like to thank Assemblymember Reyes for taking the time out of her schedule to bring light to this subject that too often plagues our communities throughout the United States of America. It's my understanding there are approximately 12 million victims of domestic violence throughout our nation, and each one is one too many. Each time I hear of a tragic event that takes place in our community, I'm saddened. I'm also sorry for the problems that not only result from that day, but emanate after that.
But as long as that person, the abuser, has control over the individual, they're fine, they're happy.
According to the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, 50% of mass shootings in America have a domestic violence component. It is for this reason that I am joining with Option House and our community partners to shed light on the root of Monday's tragedy.
This is one of those things that you don't necessarily prepare for. You hope that you make sure that you're doing everything right. But in this case, with the domestic issue, I mean, as much as we could have tried to prevent it, he would have found a way to get in. And so that's something that we definitely look into, and looking at the procedures and policy.
Monday's incident at North Park Elementary was a very public and very tragic display of the impact of domestic violence. The intended target of the domestic violence being Karen Smith, but with it, we also lost 8-year-old Jonathan Martinez, and another 9-year-old student was also critically wounded. It's hard for us to make sense of why this would happen and why it would happen there. Last year, our department conducted over 1,500 domestic violence-related investigations. Most of these did not play out publicly for all the world to see like Monday's event did for us. Instead, they happen behind closed doors and out of the view of others. Victims of this violence are oftentimes afraid to come forward for a variety of reasons, such as fear or shame. Regardless of the reason, it's a cycle that needs to be broken.
Currently in the Assembly, there are several bills that aim to support our domestic violence victims. AB 413 by Assemblymember Susan Eggman, allows a party to a confidential communication to record the conversation for the purposes of obtaining information that will be necessary in a restraining order or related to the crime of the domestic violence. There is another Assembly bill presented by Assemblymember Blanca Rubio, which clarifies that a court must consider all documented evidence of any history of domestic violence between the parties when they're determining the amount and whether somebody should receive spousal support. Senator Roth and Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes have introduced SB 40, which extends felonies or the classification of a felony in domestic abuse or domestic violence to also include strangulation and suffocation. I have also introduced AB 578, which aims to help our immigrant community. With this specific bill, the presumed immigration status of a victim cannot be used to threaten them against testifying in court. Every victim, regardless of legal status, should feel safe and secure when reaching out for services that will help them leave their abuser.
I'll talk to you soon.